Welcome, Annie Collins here for Imagine Crafts. Today I will be creating butterfly thank you cards. I created a yellow and blue butterfly card off screen just to get an idea of what I wanted to show you today. I did these in bolder colors. I used a nice bright yellow background and these bolder blues for my butterfly. And I embossed with gold embossing powder. So today I wanted to create a same card or similar style, but in softer color palettes, in pinks and turquoise. So let's go over some of our colors and products that we use today. For the butterfly, we're going to use in Memento, Angel Pink, Rosebud, and Brilliance Pearlescent Orchid. For our background, we're going to use VersaMagic in Aquatic Splash, VersaMagic in Turquoise Gem, and Brilliance in Sky Blue, or Pearlescent Sky Blue. We're going to use our VersaMark embossing ink, embossing powder in Valentine. That's a nice pearlescent deep pink color. Our on-point glue to adhere our gems and our butterfly. We're going to use our sentiment here. We're going to use the thank you sentiment, and it comes with a coordinating die. You can use any sentiment you would like. Some glossy paper that's been cut in a butterfly shape, and a mandala stencil to put over our butterfly. Now you can use any stencil or any shape you want, but I wanted to create butterflies. And I'm going to put my mandala right in the center of our butterfly. You'll need some cold pressed watercolor paper. You could do this with regular cardstock, but you're going to need to dry it even more. But I like using watercolor paper because I know it'll hold up to the water. And an A2 top folding card base, which is 110-pound card base. We're going to need to bring in some water. So I have my water spritzer right here. And a blending brush or tool to put your ink through your stencil. All right, let's get started. I'm going to start with Aquatic Splash and Turquoise Gem, and I'm going to squish them onto my little palette here. I'm going to give them a spritz with some water, and I'm going to start dipping my watercolor paper into it and just spreading it around. And I dry it in between little layers and dip again and dry. This prevents my cardstock from bending or warping too much, and it also heats it up, dries up the paper, the ink, so I can move on to the next process. Now I'm taking the Brilliance and Pearlescent Sky, and I'm just going to put a little bit on the edges. And I wanted to put a little in the middle, but I got a lot than I wanted. So I'm just going to add a little water and water it down and then dry that up. Once that's all dry, I'll set it to the side so we can work on our butterfly. For our butterfly, again, we're using glossy paper or glossy cardstock. And I'm going to center my stencil in the middle of it, and I'm going to put some masking tape just to hold it in place. Like I said, you can use any stencil or any shape you want to create the same technique. So I'm using a blending brush, and to blend in some of the ink. I'm starting off with my Angel Pink, and I'm putting it through the stencil. Then I will check on it, and I'll realize that I have more white on it than I wanted. So I'm going to brush a little bit more of that Angel Pink onto my butterfly, but directly, not through the stencil, just directly onto this die cut. I'm going to replace my stencil, and I'm going to move on to Rosebud. So I have Memento here in Rosebud, and I'm just going to put that through the stencil, and that'll darken the design a bit more on my angel, on my butterfly, not my angel. Okay, and now I'm going to bring in a little bit of Brilliance and put that through the stencil. I'm going to remove the stencil from the butterfly, and I'm going to add a little bit of Brilliance on the wings, just on the edges. I'll clear my mat so we can get started on building our card. I know I want my butterfly towards the top and my sentiment towards the bottom. I'm going to fuss with that a bit, and then I'm going to set it aside while we work on our sentiment. So I have my VersaMark ink, a piece of white cardstock, my stamp on the stamping block, embossing powder, and Valentine. I'm going to use my embossing anti-static tool here on my cardstock. I'm going to ink up my stamp with the VersaMark ink, which is a nice sticky ink, and I'm going to pour some of the embossing powder over it. I'm going to open up my little pouch here. I'm going to grab my little coffee filter, make sure that it's all on there, and then I'm going to sprinkle my embossing powder on top. Shake off the excess, and I notice I have a little more than I wanted there, so I'm going to grab a dry brush to clean up my edges. I cleaned up a little too much off my Y there, and then I'm going to get my clothespin and heat set this with my heat tool. I start off from the back and then I continue to the front until it's completely melted. I go on both sides, front and back. It prevents warping of my paper. Now I'm going to go ahead and die cut this with the coordinating die. So I'm going to adhere my die, or place my die and hold it in place with some washi tape and run it through my mini die cutting machine. Then I'm ready to assemble our card. So I went ahead and curled the wings of my butterfly just a bit and added little pieces of foam tape. And I'm going to add some foam tape to our sentiment as well. But first, I'm going to bring in our card base, and I'm going to adhere our watercolor panel to our card base using some Imagine Crafts Terra tape. I'm going to put plenty of tape all around the edges and some in the center. That'll keep my panel nice and flat. I'm going to line it up and press it into place. Once I have that down and adhered, I'm going to go ahead and add our butterfly. Now, I have, like I said, the foam adhesive on each of the wings, but on the center I have no adhesive. So I'm going to put a little bit of on-point glue in the middle, and that'll help anchor our butterfly to the cardstock. Now that our butterfly is all in place, you can see it has nice dimension and with the curling there. I'm going to add our sentiment. I'm putting a little foam adhesive on the back of that and towards the bottom of it. The top portion I'm going to put a little on-point glue so it can adhere to our butterfly. Just a little bit here and there. I'm going to put that in place and press it down. Now all that's left is to adhere some decorative gems. Of course, this is optional. If you don't want to do that, you can. But I'm going to add 5 little gems, 3 on the top here and 2 towards the bottom by the sentiment. And I have brought in a selection of dark pink and light pink gems and teal gems. So on the top I'll put 1 of each of those, and on the bottom I'm just going to put a light pink and a teal because we already have the dark pink there with the sentiment. So now our color is now balanced throughout our card. And now our card is complete. These are simple and easy thank you cards. You can mass produce these quite easily. So again, we used for our card today the Memento ink in Angel, Pink, Rosebud, and Pearlescent, Orchid, and Brilliance. We did VersaMagic in Aquatic Splash, Turquoise Gem, and Brilliance, Pearlescent Sky Blue. We have VersaMark ink, embossing powder in Valentine, Terra tape that we used to put our panel together, a little on-point glue to adhere our gems and butterfly, a glossy paper butterfly, a sentiment and coordinating die, and all this with some watercolor paper and a stencil, we created our card. Here's the one we created today, and this is the one I created off screen. Same card, just a little bit different because of the colors we chose. I'll have both of the colors that I use for these cards both in the description box below. As always, I would like to thank you for being here. I hope you found some inspiration. Please like and subscribe to our channel if you want to continue to see beautiful designs by our design team.